Good morning. Do you know one of the most interesting things about being a parent and seeing your kids grow up is seeing them take on some of your habits and some of your characteristics and starting to behave like you behave. I know with my own dad, he had certain characteristics that I find myself starting to carry out now. One, for example, was when he was tired. He would just take his empty hands and he would just wash his face with his empty hands when he was tired. And I find myself doing that now from time to time. So Paul, in this passage we're looking at today, he's calling on the Philippian Christians to act out of this new nature that they have of being children of God. He calls them to live from that, but in a very specific, he's looking at a very specific set of circumstances. And it's quite challenging. Let me read this passage. It's Philippians 2, verses 14 and 15. And Paul writes, "Do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that you may become blameless and pure, children of God, without fault in a warped and crooked generation. Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky, as you hold firmly to the word of life." I don't know about you, but I find I am quicker to be complaining and grumbling and argumentative these days. As we're locked down, a lot of our freedoms are not available to us. And it's very easy for us, I think, to become people who grumble and complain and give out. But Paul is calling on the Philippian Christians not to do that. I suppose a couple of reasons for that. One is these expressions of discontent and arguing, I suppose, can lead to a spirit of division within a community of believers. And as we've seen already, unity within the local church, within the community of believers in a local church, is something that's very, very much on Paul's mind. But another reason why he calls on us not to complain and grumble and argue is that it reveals a basic unbelief. When we grumble and complain, it shows that we don't really believe that God has allowed the trials in our lives that are there. It shows, I think, that we don't really believe he's adequate to meet every situation that we face. And we're telling those around us that we believe that God is doing a pretty poor job and that given the opportunity, maybe we could do a lot better. But instead, Paul calls us to live out of our nature as children of God. And he has this beautiful image of us that we are to shine like stars in the dark. And so there's this idea, this sense that we are to be different and we are to be seen to be different. We are to be people who are hope-filled, people who are filled with joy, even despite the difficult circumstances that we face. And that those around us might see that and be brought into questions, why are we like that? Why do we have a hope when others are finding life so difficult and are grumbling and complaining all the time? And so a couple of questions maybe for us to think about. The first one is, do I have a lifestyle of complaint that discredits the authenticity of who I am? Am I someone who grumbles and complains a lot? And what does that look like to other people who see that? And second question is maybe, what is the counterpart to grumbling and arguing that would release the light of Jesus Christ into this world's darkness? Let me pray for us. Father, would you forgive us when we grumble and complain and we communicate to those around us that you are not a good father, that you are not taking care of us, that you are not in control. Because we know that is not the case. We know that you are completely in control, that you are sovereign. And Father, help us to act out of the natures that we have of being your children, and that we are those who are adopted into your family. And let the joy of that just fire out of us, Lord, that other people might see that and be drawn to you through that. Amen. Have a good day.